Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived. It is our main event of the evening. And there is Ryan Garcia. He's never lost. 22-0 with 18 knockouts, 5'10", with a 2-inch reach advantage over Javier Fortuna, who many consider to be the toughest opponent of King Rye's career.
The last time we've seen Ryan Garcia versus an experienced southpaw, Garcia hit the check. There's that check left hook, and that's
the straight right hand connected for Garcia. Yeah. Garcia's starting to press forward. He said he was going to start pushing the tempo in the first round, and a body shot sends Fortuna down.
That was a body shot, just like we saw knock Luke Campbell out.
Oh, and he caught him with a left hook again. And Javier Fortuna may not want to absorb any more punishment here tonight. Out comes the mouthpiece.
No mas. No mas.
Ryan Garcia, a dominant performance over a former champion in Los Angeles. How do you like it?
You want a definitive win, you want a statement win, you got one from Ryan Garcia.
Ryan Garcia reminded the boxing world that there is a brilliant fighter behind the social media bluster with a 6-round destruction of Javier Fortuna. And while the win was impressive, as with anything involving the divisive 23-year-old, it comes with caveats. That means his next foe will need to meet a few criteria. He'll need to be closer to a 50-50 proposition than 90-10. He'll need to have scored a worthwhile win since the start of 2021. And he'll need enough skill of his own to make Garcia finally use the tools his hype men have been gushing about. Fortunately, there's one man who checks all 3 boxes. His name, Gervonta "Tank" Davis.
Gervonta "Tank" Davis!
Gervonta "Tank" Davis hits different.
What makes this fight so interesting is what both uber-talented fighters bring to the table. The style clash of a lanky 5'10" right-hander and a predatory 5'6" southpaw is particularly intriguing, given that both men have shown fight-altering power to the head and the body.
And now Campbell is down on a knee, 2 knees! He's asking questions! It is over! Ryan King Rye Garcia!
The fan base clash is equally intriguing too, with Davis having played to full houses in Baltimore, Atlanta, and New York in recent fights, while building on a hometown foundation that's evolved into crowds dotted with high-profile athletes and celebrities angling for space. Garcia, meanwhile, with his Mexican-American heritage, falls back on a new school type of following that is mainly attributed to his large social media, which consists of 9 million followers on Instagram. Ask a teenager about Julio Cesar Chavez and you'll get a blank stare. Ask the same teenager about Garcia and you'll get instant recognition. It's been a few years in the making too. Indeed, after his January 2021 victory over Luke Campbell to become WBC interim lightweight champion, Garcia FaceTime Tank as the two talked up a potential clash.
2 rounds, baby, 2 rounds. 2 rounds. I don't care. You're on pause. 2 rounds.
Since then, the pair of them have been occupied with a number of other fights, but they remain 2 of the most prominent stars at super lightweight. And if you needed reaffirmation that Garcia's fire to fight Tank hadn't waned, the 23-year-old lightweight contender from Victorville, California, has made it clear he wants nothing more than a showdown with Baltimore's finest. Of course, this bout is also an important one for Tank, too. While Tank has certainly not been toiling in obscurity, he has found himself operating under the wing of Floyd Mayweather. Money makes headlines wherever he goes, and Davis has often found himself reduced to the role of sidekick. That would all be set to change, though, with the Garcia bout being the type of fight which would launch Tank to true superstardom. After this fight, barring a loss, the mini-Mayweather era is over. The Gervonta Davis era is upon us. And what a story it would be.
Yeah, both of my parents was on drugs. My mother left me and my brother in the house by ourselves, you know, so they took us into custody.
Gervonta Davis witnessed drug abuse as a youngster and survived an onslaught of gun violence around his Baltimore neighborhood that turned hearts dark. Davis was the youngest of 3 brothers at age 5 when Child Protective Services ordered their mother to give up custody of her children. The disruption of those formative years hardened Davis, and at age 8, he'd fight with neighborhood kids daily. His uncle, James Walker, observed one of the skirmishes and told his nephew, "We've got to turn something negative into a positive." With financial assistance from another uncle to buy boxing equipment, they took him to a gym operated by Coach Calvin Ford. For those who watched the HBO series The Wire, Ford served as inspiration for the show's character, Cuddy.
I don't want to hear no more street talk. We boxing up in here. We ain't fighting.
Ford, and by extension, the gym, managed to keep Tank out of trouble. By his own admission, if it wasn't for the gym, he would have been out in the neighborhood running wild. Baltimore's unrelenting gun violence even claimed Ford's son, who first trained Davis, alongside several members of the gym. But Davis, who amassed a 206-15 record as an amateur, was out of town at tournaments because he was winning so much.
My son, he wanted to go back to Jersey, and he made a comment. We was somewhere at D.C., and he sit there and said, man, you'll make a good role model for Gervonta. And ever since then, it was just like my son was just telling me, I'm not going to be here. Put Shorty up under your wing.
After deciding to turn pro at 18, instead of waiting 3 more years for the 2016 Olympics, Davis aligned with manager Al Heyman of Premier Boxing Champions, then was ultimately signed by Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s promotion company after impressing the unbeaten champion at a sparring session. From there, he's never looked back. While not quite the same, Garcia too knows how it feels to have his back against the wall. Back in 2021, Garcia had been scheduled to fight Javier Fortuna, but he pulled out of the fight because he was suffering from depression.
Hard to explain. Like, sometimes you could feel dizzy, sometimes you could feel out of the loop, sometimes you could feel like you're in a dream, sometimes you could feel unsure, and sometimes you could feel like you're about to die.
Ryan Garcia believes his fight against anxiety and depression could have ended in a train wreck if he had not sought help. He took the break to save his life when his battle against mental health problems started to look like the first fight he couldn't win. Since he climbed off the canvas to stop Luke Campbell in January 2021, Garcia has had professional help and changed from the Eddie Reynoso gym, which he shared with Mexican superstar Canelo, and teamed up with respected veteran Joe Goosen. And he confirms that unless he had taken drastic measures to break the vicious circle he was facing, the next stop was a terrifying first loss. Boxing often delivers mega fights too late. And yet, while this fight has been marinating for several years, Tank Garcia feels like it's happening at the right time, at least in terms of a competitive aspect. Over the last few years, Garcia has prepared astutely for the challenge that is Tank. In his last 3 fights, he's faced 2 southpaws, and his last opponent, Fortuna, was a short and powerful southpaw who could end fights with a single punch. Remind you of anyone? Indeed, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy are renowned for preparing their fighters well. Before Garcia, it was Canelo fighting 2 orthodox pressure fighters in the form of Liam Smith and Chavez Jr. before facing the juggernaut that was GGG. Here, Garcia got Campbell, then Fortuna, before Tank. Now, the training wheels are off. Both fighters favor going for the stoppage, with only 6 of their 50 combined opponents going the distance. That should make for some exciting action while it lasts. But more importantly, with both sets of fighters bringing in a polar opposite set of fans into this fight, the winner not only positions themselves as one of boxing's best young pound-for-pound fighters, but perhaps also becomes the new face of boxing. A bold new era begins now.